The email arrived at 8:12 a.m. on a Wednesday. Subject, family dinner formal invite. I stared at the screen longer than necessary, heart quietly fluttering. It had been months since I heard anything warm or inclusive from my family, let alone something formal. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary was coming up, and this dinner was apparently the grand celebration. It was written like a group message, but I could feel the subtle coldness behind the politeness. Hope you can make it, Maya. It'll be nice to have everyone under one roof again. Everyone. I swallowed, after years of carefully dodging questions like still no boyfriend, or don't you want to settle down? I had slowly pulled away. Family gatherings had become performance halls, and I was the opening act that never delivered. But this invitation felt like a white flag, a reset. Maybe they were finally seeing me as more than just the single daughter. I went all in, found the perfect navy blue satin dress that whispered elegance without screaming for attention. Had my hair done in a soft, romantic wave. Even bought Mom and Dad a framed canvas print of their wedding photo, restored digitally, something no one else would think of. I arrived 10 minutes early, greeted by glimmering lights wrapped around the giant oak trees lining the driveway. The venue was absurdly beautiful. Marble floors, chandeliers like crystal teardrops, and a live quartet humming old jazz in the background. Inside, I searched for my name among the gold-foiled place cards on the long dining tables. Maya Kapoor. I found it, smiled, and then paused. It wasn't at the main table, nor the second one. It was tucked in the corner, on a tiny round table set for 6. Surrounded by name cards that read, Ria age 7, Neil age 10, Mira age 5, the children's table. I blinked, then blinked again. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Surely someone had swapped cards. But no, there was my name in perfect calligraphy. No honorific, just Maya. My throat tightened. A quiet heat started behind my ears. I turned to see my older sister laughing at the main table with her husband. Her 2 kids seated proudly beside her like trophies. I caught my mother's eye. She looked awkward, smiled politely, said nothing. Why am I at the kids' table? I asked, approaching her slowly. Oh, she said with a wave of her hand like I had just asked where the restroom was. We thought it would be more relaxed for you there. You're not exactly in the family unit tables, you know. Not in the family unit, the words gutted me, so I sat. At that tiny table with cartoon-themed napkins and juice boxes, trying not to crumble as Ria showed me her new glitter slime and asked if I had kids yet. I smiled, nodded, laughed on cue. I played the role they gave me. Inside, I was burning, not with rage, but with a slow, heartbreaking realization. It wasn't just a dinner seating choice. It was how they saw me, a woman in her 30s with her own apartment, her own business, her own goddamn spine. And they still treated me like a child, simply because I hadn't added Mrs. in front of my name. By dessert, I'd had enough. I left the frame on their gift table, hugged the kids, and quietly walked out. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed. In the parking lot, I sat behind the wheel and whispered aloud to the silence, "You don't have to be married to be whole." That night, something inside me closed. But something else opened, and the next chapter, that would be mine to write. The day after the dinner, no one called. Not a text, not a missed call. Not even a "did you get home safe?" From my mother. You'd think walking out of your parents' anniversary party without a word would earn some kind of follow-up. But the silence was louder than any apology could have been. It confirmed what I had finally begun to believe. I was not one of them, not really. I wasn't angry, not yet. Just hollow. For a week, I ignored the family group chat. Photos rolled in. Dad cutting the cake, Mom wiping tears, my siblings grinning like they'd just won something. I wasn't in a single picture. I might as well have been a ghost, and maybe I was to them. That Sunday, my phone buzzed with a call from Ma. I let it ring 5 times before picking up. "Hi, Beta," she said, like nothing had happened. "Where did you go that night? You didn't even stay for dessert." "I wasn't feeling well," I said flatly. "Oh, that's too bad. Everyone missed you." I almost laughed. No one even noticed I left. There was a pause. "Well," she started carefully, "it was such a busy night. Everyone was everywhere. You know how it is." "Yeah," I said. "I know exactly how it is." Another pause, longer this time. "I hope you weren't upset about the seating." she added quickly, like tossing a bandage at a bullet wound. "We just thought it would be more comfortable for you with the little ones, since I don't have a husband," I cut in. "Maya, I'm 33, Ma. I'm not a child. I never said you were. You didn't have to." Silence. And there it was again, that quiet space between us where things lived unsaid. All the years I'd spent pretending it didn't matter. That being the single one at family gatherings was just a phase. That my degrees, my apartment, my career, my life were enough to earn me a seat at the table. But they never saw it that way. Not really. Because no matter how much I did, no matter who I became, I hadn't been claimed by a man. And in their world, that made me unfinished, you know. I said softly, not with anger but exhaustion, "Do you have any idea what it felt like, sitting there, like I was invisible, like my entire life meant nothing because I didn't come with a plus one in a diamond ring? Maya, don't be so dramatic." That was it. That single sentence broke something in me that had been barely holding together. "Dramatic," I repeated, "right, of course. Maya, you're taking this too personally." I wanted to scream. But instead, I just exhaled, "I'm hanging up now." Maya, wait, click. After that call, something in me shifted. Not a snap, more like a gentle snapping out of it. The fog of guilt, the ache for approval, the endless loop of maybe next time they'll see me, it cleared. For the first time in years, I didn't feel sad. I felt awake. They didn't see me because they never tried. They were looking for a version of me that never existed. The daughter with a husband on her arm and 2 kids in tow. The version they could be proud of at dinner parties and prayer circles. But I was proud of the woman I had become. She just didn't fit into their photo frames. And if they couldn't celebrate me, then maybe they didn't deserve a seat in my life either. I started taking inventory, quietly, not to prove anything, but to finally ask myself, what do I want? Not to rebel, not to please, just to exist fully. And in that question, something beautiful began to form. An idea, a vision, not revenge, not really. Just a little reminder. A reminder that some tables only seat those willing to see others clearly. And if mine had to be built from scratch, so be it. It would be strong. It would be elegant. It would be mine. 3 months passed. 3 months of silence. 3 months of not showing up to Sunday brunches, group chats, or forwarded marriage proposals. 3 months of no longer shrinking myself into someone else's expectations. Instead, I poured everything I had into building something that mattered, not to win their approval, but to build a space where I finally belonged. Not a relationship, not a performance, but a legacy. The idea had come quietly one night, a mentorship foundation for young women, especially first-generation daughters of immigrants, who were tired of being told that their value came from someone else choosing them. A place for women like me, who needed to be reminded that wholeness didn't come with a ring. I called it Seat for One. The tagline, "You don't need a reservation to belong at your own table." The launch gala was set for a warm September evening, hosted in the garden courtyard of the Metropolitan Arts Museum, a venue reserved for the city's elite, now graced by a woman who once sat at the children's table, like an afterthought. I sent out invitations, carefully addressed, no family titles, just names. Even my parents got one, hand-delivered in gold, embossed envelopes. They came, of course, they came. They always show up when there's an audience. I greeted them with warmth, not vengeance. My father blinked up at the glittering lights and whispered, "You did all this." Yes, I smiled, every inch of it. My siblings looked confused. Their spouses awkward. My mother was already scanning the room for cameras, or maybe for a man in a tuxedo to appear at my side. But there was none, just me. When it was time for the guests to be seated, ushers guided them to tables labeled not by hierarchy, but by values, creators, dreamers, rebels, survivors. And one, tucked to the side, a bit removed. Traditional thinkers, I guess where my family sat. I saw their faces shift when they realized it wasn't the VIP section. That the spotlight wasn't pointed at them. That their status didn't come with assigned importance tonight. For once, they were simply guests. I walked up to their table. "Hope you're comfortable," I said sweetly. "I thought this one might suit your values." They blinked. My brother opened his mouth to speak, but my mother placed a quiet hand on his arm. Then I left them and took my place at the Builder's A table, alongside women I had mentored, creators I had admired, and mentors who had believed in me long before my family ever did. My speech came last. I stepped onto the stage, adjusted the mic, and looked out at the crowd. I want to thank everyone who came tonight not just to celebrate this launch, but to honor a truth many of us have carried in silence, that we are enough even when others don't see it, that a woman is not unfinished without a man, that her seat at the table is not conditional on marriage, motherhood, or matching expectations. I paused. Let it breathe. Some of us have spent our whole lives being told we don't belong unless someone chooses us. Well, tonight is for the women who chose themselves. Applause broke. Loud, genuine. I looked toward my family's table. Their hands didn't move. My mother's eyes were glassy. My father looked small, but I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. Later that night, as guests mingled and the string quartet played under the stars, my youngest niece ran up to me. "Aunt Maya," she said, eyes wide, "I want to build something too." I knelt down and took her hand. "You already are. They say revenge is best served cold." But mine wasn't cold at all. It was warm, elegant, built slowly, like a home, and in the end, I didn't need a better seat at their table. I just needed to remember I was always worthy of building my own. And I did.